Hello, and welcome to today's episode of A Talk in the Park. Today we're going to talk about macronutrients. I know, very exciting. But in reality, we're going to talk more so about the misconceptions about the bird just yelling out like bloody murder. Okay. Could you nod for 5 seconds? Thank you. Okay, so we're talking specifically about nutrients in food and basically talking about the misconceptions of it. So the main thing I wanted to cover was the difference between sugars, fats, and carbohydrates. So in a lot of modern talk, people say things are heavy in carbs, like pasta and rice and bread and whatnot. And you'd be right, they are filled with lots of carbohydrates. But what is a carbohydrate? There's another squirrel running by. Looks like a skunk. It's actually quite large. But there are these things called monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides, basically multi-biological structures that form together to make a sugar. And sugars are the very foundation of human life, similar to glucose. Glucose is in a lot of the foods we eat. It's a very simple sugar that when compiled together can make glucagon, which is used to store in our bodies. Anyway, getting a bit off track. What I'm trying to say is that foods that are supposedly heavy in carb do have a lot of simple sugars like that. But believe it or not, the words I'm using, sugars, it's a simple sugar. Sugars are also these monosaccharides, polysaccharides, disaccharides. There are also structures that are used for fuel. Sugar is still fuel. It's not strictly a purely bad thing. Now, things like high fructose corn syrup is different. Fructose is a monosaccharide, so high fructose means it's high in that specific type of sugar, which is why it's seemingly unhealthy because it's heavily processed and used in the corn syrup to make things a lot sweeter than they actually are. When people say this thing's high in carbs, it is high in a sugar, but it's not high in the similar type of sugar that we're used to in like desserts and whatnot. Let's talk about why people fear sugar and why they think it'll like make them unhealthy. Now obviously there's the talking about the dental aspect of it where like it'll rot your teeth, and yes, that is true. A lot of amounts of sugar can wear down the structure of your teeth and potentially form cavities. These birds are so loud. So does that mean eating a lot of bread will make you have cavities? No, because it's a different type of sugar. It's formed in the bread and whatnot and the actual goods. Sugars in your body, when you eat a lot of glucose, your body has to balance it out because your pancreas sorts out the difference between insulin and glucagon. So the pancreas in the body delivers insulin to your body, well, in most cases, unless you're diabetic, will deliver the proper amount of insulin to counteract the glucose in your body. Insulin and glucose counteract each other. Insulin will help reduce levels of glucose in your body. That's how we calculate blood sugar levels. When you eat a lot of glucose, a lot of it gets absorbed into your body, but the rest of it is still left over. It's not just going to leave your body purely. Your body will have these different receptors that will grab the glucose and form it together to make glucagon. The glucagon then stays in your body for longer as like fat stores. It'll store in fat cells. That's why people say eating a lot of carbs will supposedly make you fat. It doesn't really, but in extreme excess, yes, it'll eventually store in fat cells, which will then grow your fat cells, and then overall you will develop more body fat as a result. But it doesn't strictly make you fat or make you unhealthy in that regard. Because of insulin, insulin's able to help counteract that if your body has too much too much sugar in the blood sugar level. So then that leads me to my next point, talking about other macronutrients. So sugars are obviously one that we've talked about, and they're formed from these miniature saccharides. We have to talk about things like fats. So people say fat makes you fat. That's not even true either. You have fat cells in your body. No matter what your body fat percentage is, you do have fat in your body. This is a fact. So the building blocks of fats are triglycerides, or better known as fatty acids. The fatty acids link together to form this general fat structure. Now, fat doesn't make you fat in the same way because they're not going to get stored like glucagon and glucose are in your fat cells. Rather, these acids will hold you over more. Glucose burns and sugars burn quite quickly, whereas fats can last for longer, fats and oils. That's why the fats in like fish products and nuts and other natural things like olives and whatnot aren't necessarily unhealthy, but rather help your body feel fueled and full, because your body takes a while to actually break it down, and then once it does, it releases a significant amount of energy in comparison. Proteins are made from amino acids. Now, proteins are used in DNA to help use an RNA in your body to help code for functional proteins in your body. The functional proteins will then code for different traits in your body, like eye color and whatnot, but the proteins we eat in other foods and whatnot are another source of fuel that it's harder to break down, some of the fats are. There's a lot of fads about, oh, let's just pound down a bunch of protein and you'll get big and strong. That's not necessarily the case. The protein is the fuel, but you need to put the effort in to burn the fuel. To actually burn it while exercising, the protein will help build your own muscles because it'll give your body enough structure and fuel, so then when you work out, you will eventually build more muscle mass over time. Now, obviously, there's the argument of natural sugars versus artificial sugars and whatnot. There's a big divide in that regard. Natural sugars, for example, they're not added in afterwards, so to speak. They are purely natural in a sense. The fruiting body of the seeds that the fruit produces have sugars in them as like a structure. Same with cellulose and plant products. Humans can digest cellulose, just it takes a while for me at the same time. But in a way, the main talking point is how calories work. Calories are calculated by how long your body takes to actually break down and how much fuel it gets out of it, the energy. So for example, something heavy in calories, it means it takes a while to break down, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's fulfilling in a health-wise. Let's talk about this. So like a fillet of salmon will be decently filling. It's like probably 300 calories or so, with rough estimates. That means your body's taking a while to break down the proteins, the acids and whatnot, as well as the sugars that are in a piece of salmon. Whereas something like a bag of chips, it's heavy in oils and fats, and these fats and whatnot are used from grease and whatnot. So your body will take a while to actually break them down, but not in the sense where it releases a ton of energy in return. That's why eating a bunch of junk food will make you feel lethargic, because your body's using a lot of effort to break it down, as the grease and oil will slow you down. Whereas healthier oils like that in fish and other vegetables and produce, it won't necessarily linger for as long, but rather it'll break down and release a significant amount of more energy in return. So next time you look at like health diets and whatnot and vegan things, or this 13 steps to make you lose body fat fast, look at the science of it. Read some research articles about it, and understand truly what you're eating. That way you can actually understand and break down the individual components. And when you're looking at protein-heavy diets versus no-carb diets, you can actually understand what works best for your body. At the end of the day, food is just food, right? Whatever needs to fuel you, that's the goal, and actually keep you running throughout the day. So long as you pick the foods that work best for you, and if you do have a goal in mind, work your diet and exercise around that rather than following someone's strict regimen that worked for them, supposedly. But everyone has a different body type, and everyone has different body systems in a sense. So you need to work and adjust what works best for you. That's what my takeaway is. So that's going to be it for a talk in the park for today. Hopefully it's a coherent product and not a chaotic mess that I think it might be. There's no script for these types of videos. It's just talking about what's on my mind in a general structure in that sense. But we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.